Which Mortarch do I want to run today? Do I want to go with Archon? Or maybe I'll go with Manfred von Karstein. Yeah, I think we're going to go with Manfred. Today we're going to show you guys how to magnetize your Mortarch kit.
Anvil of War! Conversion Corner!
So as I said, today we're going to be showing you guys how we magnetize the Mortarch kit for any of your death factions. You can do Archon the Black, you can do Manfred von Karstein, or you can do Neferata. Basically, when it comes down to it, it's a very simple magnetizing process, and it will result in you, instead of having to buy 3 Mortarchs, now you'll buy 1 and be able to switch between the different variants. Okay, so in order to magnetize the Mortarchs, first of all, you're going to want to assemble the model. You're going to need him in some sort of sub-assembly. Now, sub-assemblies will vary depending on your preferences for painting, etc. But first of all, we're going to need the mount. The mount needs to be, the torso at least, needs to be assembled, because this is where you're going to be housing the magnet for the riders to sit on and be interchangeable. The other thing that I should bring up is that these front plates are different from Mortarch to Mortarch. So if you want to have this magnetized so that each Mortarch can have its individualized plate or individualized head, then you're going to need more magnets, and you're also going to need to essentially follow the same steps that we're following today, but it will involve a little bit of creativity. The heads are pretty easy to do, but the armor housing is a little bit different. And that's purely based on the reason, well, you essentially would have to have the head magnetized if you wanted to do the armor. And the reason is that if you look at how close this gets together, you'd have to basically slide this in over top in order to do that. So just something to bear in mind. But today we're just going to be magnetizing the mounts. I've chosen to go with Archon's plate, chest plate here, and then Neferata's mounts head. And then I've actually just made a little conversion to give those horns. I'm going to do some green stuffing in there to make it nice and, make it blend, etc. But yeah, so you're going to need the mount assembled to at least the torso completed. Then you're going to need all of your different mounts. So I've gone ahead and completed them. The only thing I should mention also is that Archon, who I'm most likely going to be using primarily, he normally has reins that come down and attach to the head of his head for the mount. But I obviously wanted A, to go with this head, and B, to magnetize it, and they're really flimsy pieces of plastic, so I chose to chop them off. I'm probably going to give him like a little ritual dagger or something like that at later stages. But yeah, if you're going that route, you may want to consider getting rid of the reins, just because they're not really necessary. The other two don't have reins, so it's not necessary. So yeah, we just have the there's Manfred, looking mighty badass, and he's ready to go. And then we have Neferata. So that's it. They're fully assembled. The big thing to bring up or to point out is that these seats have spaces to sit in to the hole on the mount. So the mount, they naturally are going to want to sit in fairly well. The difference is that you're going to be driving a magnet in there, and you're going to want it to sit. And the other thing is you're going to need as much surface area, and we'll talk about that in a bit, but you're going to need as much surface area touching when the when the two magnets touch, to really A, make it strong so that it's not tipping off and falling off as you're moving the model around on the table, and B, just peace of mind as well. So next you're going to need a drill bit. You're going to need some glue. Plastic glue will not work. Everybody has their preferences. This is the stuff I like to stick to. It's easy to work with. You're going to need a hobby knife. The reason that you need a hobby knife is that once you have drilled out the hole with your drill bit, you're going to want to be able to kind of chisel away, make sure that that magnet fits in nice and snug. And then here we have 3mm by 1mm magnets. These are earth magnets. They're very strong. They're very thin, 1mm, so they're very small or very thin. And when they sit in, you don't need to drill very deep in for them to sit perfectly. And the other thing is like I said, they're extremely strong, but obviously the more surface area that's touching, the stronger the connection will be. So just, you know, keep that in mind. So now we've gone through all of our supplies. Let's move on to getting these magnets inside these models. So we're going to take the mount. And what we're going to need to do is drill a hole inside. So you're going to need a drill mechanism. Sometimes you can use a pen or a marker and just kind of mark off the center. This is pretty obvious and easy because there's already a hole there. So make sure the drill bit that you choose matches the magnets that you're going to be putting in. It can be a little bigger. In this case, it's slightly bigger, not much, but that's good because we want the magnet to glue in flat. So we're going to take this and I'm going to use a drill and drill this in. Now, it's very important that you're very careful. This model does assemble sideways. There is a line here. So if you're pushing really hard while you're drilling, especially if you're using a power drill or something crazy like that, like I do, there's also there's lots of hand drills, etc., that you can use. And to be honest, if your drill bit is good enough, you could probably just go back and forth like that until it's going to sit flush in there. But for the actual riders, you're not going to have that luxury. So it's good to either set your center mark with a pen or a marker. If you're not that confident with this, you can do that. And then the other thing is you could create sort of a guide hole and drill in with like a pin vise. I'm not going to do that, but if this is your very first time trying something like this, then you might want to guide yourself the center for the drilling. So we've gone ahead and drilled a hole, and we're ready to put a magnet inside there. So we're going to take a magnet and it fits perfectly because we checked our drill bit. And we just want to make sure that the angle is correct. It's you don't want it to be sitting sort of off because again, that surface area is really important. So basically take the model, pop that in there, throw some glue, and we're on to the next step. Okay, so now that has been glued, and it'll take a minute or so to dry, give it some time, but we can set that aside, and now we're ready to move on to the mount. So I'm not going to do all three mounts in this video, although because it's the same process for all three of them. So what you're going to do is you could have pre-done this if you're smart, but I apparently decided to make this a little bit more difficult. But I like to just flatten the little nub here. Be careful, guys, if you're cutting. Cut away from yourselves. Don't do what I do. Probably cut it before you even put it on the model. It makes it even easier. And now what we're going to do is, now that it's a flat surface, we don't have to worry about it leveling off as much. Again, if you want, and you're not as experienced in using a drill, you may want to just put a little dot to guide your center point on your drill. So, and then I'm going to use the drill a hole the same size as that one because I'm putting the exact same magnet on the opposite side. So I'll be back once I've drilled that out. So now we've gone ahead and drilled out approximately 1 millimeter deep and 3 millimeters across. And now we're just going to take our hobby knife and we're just going to clean that up a little bit. The reason is if there's little pieces sticking out after you've drilled the hole, you don't want those there. The seat won't sit flush on the back of the mount. So, and that's good. So now we've got the hole drilled out. Double check that you're using the right side of the magnet before you go ahead and that might be common sense to some, but they say common sense is not so common. So make sure you take the magnet, double check which side is the correct side. If you see how strong that is, that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. That's going to make this guy sit perfectly. So now we'll take the magnet and we will use the right side and glue it in. All right. So we're just going to take our glue. I'm going to put a little dab in there. And then we're going to make sure we put that the right facing down. So once you have glued the magnet in, if you do it quick enough, make sure you know the magnet is flush with the seat, because you want it to sit fairly well on the back of the mount. And then if we did this correct, it should just sit on like so. And it's pretty strong. He's not going anywhere. I can give it an earthquake test. He's not going anywhere. And again, the seat sits very close to flush with the second part of the saddle. You will not notice that once it's painted, or barely notice it when it's painted. So it'll just, it'll just sit on like so. And then we're going to repeat that process with the other two. And then we will have interchangeable riders. And we'll be able to use whichever Mortarch in game we want to. So the reason that you want to magnetize these kits is because it's just simply an expensive model. This one's a little bit easier to access because you can get it in any of the Start Collecting box sets, or the Start Collecting box set for, I believe it's Death March. And what it does is it gives you all of the parts in the set. And the beauty thing about these models, as we show you in the video when we magnetized it, is that all of the individual characters come with their own seats to sit on top of the mount. So it's pretty awesome being able to switch them so easily and magnetize this kit so quickly. They're pretty points heavy models, so I don't see too many games where you're going to be running more than one Mortarch. If you're trying to do a superpower kind of list with Nagash and all the Mortarchs, then I'm sure you could throw that down on the table. I don't think you'll make very many friends playing that list, but this is the best way to cost efficiently get access to all three Mortarchs so that you can sub them in from game to game. As we said when we were back on the forge, we talked about the fact that you are going to have to choose between the heads and the armor plates. You would be able to magnetize those if you wanted to go a step further. I don't really see a value in doing that. It's going to be one cohesive paint scheme that I'm going to be doing for the entire army, so I will probably paint all three of these models to fit within that paint scheme so that I can just sub it out. And personally, I love this head and the army from Archon's model, and I think the head's from Neferata's mount. So it's your decision how far you want to go with the magnets, but I think at the end of the day, the real treasure is being able to switch these from model to model.
Sponsored by
Thanks for watching Anvil of War Gaming. If you like our videos and you want to check out more of our content, click on the links on the screen or below. It's actually pretty strong. And we're back again. So now we have, I should stop saying that. You're just going to cut it as he bobbleheads his way around.